The birth of an era. The game that revolutionized console gaming for years. It needs no introduction. If you were born in the last few decades, you played it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to A Tribute To. My name is Shmenty, and this is my breakdown of how Wii Sports became a classic. The Wii dropped onto the market on November 19th, 2006, along with a small sports game they included in the box called Wii Sports. It was never meant to be much, just a small game that showed off the capabilities of the Wii Remote and Nunchuck. And yet, as anyone who ever had a Wii, or a childhood for that matter, can attest, this game hits home a little harder than most. The Wii Remote, or Wiimote, was the first motion-sensing remote ever. Yes, this thing was the great-grandfather of VR controllers, the dad of the Xbox Kinect. Imagine the world without it. There would be none of, this. Okay, so it's not all great, but trust me, there's a lot of positives. The creators of the Wii wanted to create something to show off this impressive new technology they made, and so the idea of Wii Sports was sparked. It was never meant to be something big. It was never meant to hook an entire generation into video games. It was just meant to be some sort of preview for the Wii. Like I said before, Wii Sports, along with the Wii itself, dropped on November 19th, 2006. I was still incredibly young at this point. I had no idea what video games even were, but immediately people loved it, including my family. We bought a Wii and we started having fun on it. I can't remember most of it, but the one constant I do have is Wii Sports. You see, the Wii was a new type of console, a next gen from the older ones that Nintendo had made before, and it was their new approach to at-home gaming, whereas before they had focused on the Game Boy. And it succeeded with flying colors. People had never been so immersed in a console. There was no weird controller that you needed to learn. It could have been picked up by anyone, from a 6-year-old to a 76-year-old. The one word most people nowadays would probably never give to Wii Sports would be realism. But you have to keep one thing in mind. This game and this console dropped in 2006. That means the iPhone wasn't out yet. Technology was nowhere close to what we have now, and that definitely includes graphics. No, the reason this game was realistic had nothing to do with the graphics, but it had everything to do with the controller. For the first time, a game had realistic, lifelike controls. The fact that you could swing your arm and score a strike in bowling, or smash a baseball into the crowd, made it feel like old was new, like the movement so many video games tried to keep away from them was the key. One big reason Wii Sports is so beloved is because of the audience. Everyone. This is a game for your brother, your mother, your grandmother, etc. Anyone can play this. It brings a board game feeling to the video game scene so overrun with hardcore games people like to grind for hours, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just they kept an audience in mind, and Nintendo as a company as a whole has kept a very large audience. That's why they succeed. Whereas most games at the time were like Risk, this game was like apples to apples, or a simple game that you and your family can play together and have fun. Who would have thought that a game like this would be the best-selling single console game of all time? That's right, all time. This is because it shipped with the Wii, so everyone wanting to get their hands on the console could try it out, making sure that it sold over 85 million copies very rapidly. Now, something you probably think I wouldn't say in this video is that Wii Sports is not a great game, but it's true, and it was never meant to be. Truthfully, it's lacking in depth, the graphics are way too bad for a game dropped in 2006, but all of that goes out the window when you think about your memories and nostalgia you have with this game. In fact, with 75% reviews on average, this game seems very mediocre, like it doesn't deserve all the memories and love that we give it. But I disagree immensely. I think my views really fell down to this quote from an IGN review. where they say, Wii Sports is a particularly difficult game to review because it is so different and also because it's free. That's the thing. This free, extraordinarily different game is impossible to actually review in my eyes. So in order to give this title the attention it deserves, I decided to not only play through each minigame again, but also review each one by itself, along with the memories I have with them. So without further ado, let's speedrun this. Tennis is one of the most fun game modes. I like it, but there's some fatal flaws with it as well. It's the most timing-based game mode. You can have perfect posture and positioning, but if your timing is wrong, you'll fly off the court in hilarious fashion. Obviously, it has its flaws, but it's still one of my favorite game modes and one of the most competitive. I remember playing this with my sister all the time. Baseball was my favorite game mode growing up. The satisfaction of hitting a home run was one of the best feelings in the game, rifled only by our next minigame. Baseball had a lot of flaws though. The defensive AI was completely busted. You could get it over them and they would fall like 1 out of 10 times, but typically they would catch an impossible ball that really should have been over them, and it would throw off your entire play. It was still really fun to 1v1 your friends or family, but I think it all comes down to who you play it with. Unless they're a pretty competitive person, baseball's probably not the best game mode. Bowling is by far the best game mode. It's the one that typically people have the most fun with, and typically have the most memories with. It was executed perfectly in my eyes. I think the controls are the most realistic, the graphics are fun, the strikes are super satisfying to get, and you could play with anyone. This was the whole family mode. Large numbers of people could enjoy this regardless of skill or age, and at the end of the day, you would all just be having fun in front of your TV. I'm gonna be honest, I was terrible at golf. The game mode was difficult to me. Sure, it was really fun to explore the different holes the game included, and the graphics on each of them got progressively better in my opinion. I found it really fun to explore and see any shortcuts I could hit the ball to. But there were a lot of factors going into each hit that didn't really make sense to smaller me. It's definitely the game mode here with the highest skills. And bottom of the barrel. Boxing. I despise boxing. To me, it didn't make sense, it was really reliant on RNG whether your character would get back up, and overall wasn't really fun for me. I wanted it to be a simple game, but there was a health bar that I never really got, and I still don't understand how each hit does vastly different damages. I never really figured it out. Maybe I was just way stupider than most kids, but I think my opinion's echoed by most when I say this was the worst game mode. The one game mode people really glance over is the training, and although I don't have any video of it, it's one of my favorite modes of all time. Training provided a way to learn the mechanics of the game better. Some of them were really fun, like wall bounce with tennis or hitting home runs at batter practice. And I remember as a kid trying to grind them out and see if I can get better scores than my friends. It was really fun, and although there were some bad modes that weren't fun, I really liked it overall, and it provided more depth to a very, very shallow game. One of the biggest factors in people loving this game is the character customization, and honestly that speaks to the Wii as a whole. It deserves its own video, and it definitely will have one in the future. The Mii character customization was impeccable. You could create these ridiculous characters or as lifelike as you wanted. It obviously wouldn't be that lifelike, considering they look like this, but I liked it, and so did everyone else. Instead of just a regular avatar hitting a home run, it was you. It was something you created doing that. And I think that's what it comes down to in the end. This was a very player-oriented game. With all this in mind, I think I've done a good job at cutting down everyone's views on this game, and I know that. It's not a masterpiece, I said it. I love it, but I love it because of the memories I made and the times I had when I was just a kid. I can't think of many other games that's as much of a constant for me. I played this game when I was 6, and I loved it. When I was 16, I looked back and I still played it. I still remember playing my sister in tennis almost on a daily basis. I had a ton of fun with it. And even though it wasn't that deep, I played this game for well over a decade. I don't know how. I wasn't big into video games as a kid, but this one was different. I didn't have to practice it for hours, and everyone could be good at their own thing. I think that's why I loved it. I know with what I brought up in this video, it may look like I don't, but don't get me wrong. The reason I love this game is because it takes me back to a simpler time. A time where nothing mattered. A time where I was just a kid with a controller, not worrying about the future, just getting focused on hitting a home run or a strike. I love this game. It wasn't anything special, it was just a simple game for a simple time. Everyone I talk to has the same memories about it, and everyone I talk to thinks it's a masterpiece. But our brain tricks us into thinking that. It's not actually that good of a game. And therefore, our brain tricks us into having better memories with it than we actually had. But it's all about the player experience. And a lot of games fall into that. A lot of games are nothing special, it's just what you make of them. And I think that's what makes so many people love this. Playing it again, I found that it lacked depth, but it brought back years and years of memories I didn't even know I had. This game is a classic, there's no doubt about it. It got me into video games, and it deserves way more love than even I'm giving it here. Hopefully you enjoyed this video, and make sure to give me feedback if you actually liked this. I'm having a ton of fun making these, and I hope you all enjoy them. Again, thank you so much for watching. This has been Shmenty, and I'll see you in the next one. What about you? Do you have any games that you want tributes to? Doesn't even have to be a game. I've got a lot of stuff in the works right now. TV shows, movies, music. It's all good. Please let us know if you have anything that you would love a tribute to, and I'll let you know if I can make it happen. I try to be engaged with my audience, and hopefully that'll start happening. Thank you so much again, and I'll see you.